Hey everybody, I'm Rick St. Clair, host of Listen Up Elora, and today I have with me Elora local musician Jesse Baer. Jesse, tell us about you.
Hey Rick, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm a local musician. I started as a drummer as a kid, really playing in punk bands.
Nice.
I picked up guitar when I went to university and started singing. Didn't really do a whole lot with it until I moved to Elora, and
Nice.
I started going to the old Shepherd's Pub jam nights there, and a guy named Dave Jones was hosting those. I started bringing some of my original tunes. He liked them. We started jamming. Some others joined us, and that's how the Bearskins formed, which is my band. And we've been going for about 10 years now, and mostly playing locally, doing our own recordings, DIY shows, DIY recordings. We're a very DIY band, but yeah, love the whole creative musical songwriting, producing, mixing, recording, the whole deal. We're primarily like a rock band, I guess I would say, but we've got a lot of folk blues, some jazz, some funk, some punk rock. Some metal punk rock comes back in there a little bit. So a little eclectic, but all kind of in the rock and roll umbrella. But I also do some solo stuff, which tends to be more like chill acoustic folky, which is what you're going to hear on
Yeah,
the 24th for the first Elora Listen Up.
awesome. You said a lot of great points there that I definitely want to dig into. Number one, you've released quite a bit of music, so you got a good collection of original songs. I listened through your entire discography, going back to the Bearskins self-titled from July 2018. And there were a few great songs that really stood out to me there. You Come to Interrupt, really like the delivery of the vocals. And in that one in particular, like you have a very growly but dynamic voice. I really like that. And nice overdriven electric guitar, tube sound. I was curious about what amp you might have used on those records, but yeah, I really like the tone of your guitar work on there, or whoever was playing guitar. Um, and even another tune like He Still Needs Our Faith. Curious if you have like any influence from The Doors. I certainly hear a little bit of that there. I'm not sure if it's like, coincidental or if you're a fan of them, but really liked that tune. Another one, A Fox, a Dog, a Snake. Really, really great chorus, like very well written, as still remaining in my head. After listening to it only like a few times, it was like very sticky. And yeah, another one actually, Cowpunk, talking about your punk influence. I almost hear like a Dead Kennedys, rockabilly, punkabilly, and maybe on 40 Hour Embrace, like a little bit of Radiohead. I'm not sure if you're a fan of their music, but I really like the contrast between the softer vocals on that song and some of your more smoky, growly vocals. So you really, for the listener, you kind of have a lot going on with your vocals. I think if people are to listen from one song to the next, it always sounds like you have a very, distinct vocal sound, I would say, but it's very dynamic and you have a lot of different colors to play with. Let's put it that way, right? In terms of tones and your sounds, but also at the same time, very cohesive. So I really like your vocal stylings. As much as I am a folk musician, my listening tastes are very diverse. So, I'd like to get more into your influences and maybe if you want to talk about that and some of the songs I mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, yes, yes to the Doors, the Radiohead.
Yeah, nice.
It's funny. He Still Needs Their Faith. A lot of people like I was going through a Tom Waits phase, so I think Tom
Mm,
Waits was an influence and probably an influence in some of my growlier voice.
yeah.
It's I have played around with softer, growlier voices. I kind of landed on using it almost like a distortion pedal, like
Mm,
for color or for emphasis in certain parts to really give it that oomph. Like I was talking to a local artist, James Campbell, who also
yes.
loves Tom Waits as well, and
Yeah.
he said he was like really leaning into that Tom Waits thing, but it it wasn't like really him. Like nobody can really do Tom Waits like Tom
Sure.
Waits does. And so if I did that like exclusively, it wouldn't really be me. But I feel like I don't know. I try to use it more sparingly when it makes sense for like that emotional emphasis or for that, to really drill home a point or there's a certain emotion coming through in a song. And so that's kind of how I like think about using it. But
Mhm.
um, um, yeah, you said Radiohead influence. That album, the very first EP was a collection of songs that I had written like years ago before I had a band, except for He Still Needs Her Faith. That was the only one that was part of like the more modern era of my songwriting, I guess. Like post moving to Elora era.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, In terms of like the guitar tone you mentioned, I mean
yeah.
I am an avid tube amp user. When I moved to Elora, I bought um, a house owned by a very accomplished musician, Kevin Bright, and he gave me one of his amps with a house. Buy a house, get an amp.
That's a great deal.
It needed a little bit of work, but it was like an old Fender Pro Junior that he had used, and it
Nice.
became my main amp and still is to this day. I love it. I love the simplicity of it, volume, tone, the end.
Yeah.
Um, I do use a lot of pedals, but I like that kind of old classic sound, we are not like a modern rock band in our sensibilities or our tones, and so I think we've got, my songwriting certainly has a lot of older influences like the Doors, the Beatles,
Yeah.
Zeppelin, Floyd, Neil Young. We said the Doors a number of times.
Yeah, yeah.
But then like, guys like Dylan and Tom Waits and Leonard Cohen, like I always really like there's a number of songwriters that have that kind of really deep voice, which I love about your voice as
Oh,
well.
thank you.
You've got that powerful deep voice, which is, a little rare because it's sometimes like hard to fit into a mix.
For
The
sure.
the higher voices tend to dominate. Just it's easier to arrange those, but I always like those really powerful, growly, raspy voices.
Yeah. Well, it really works for you, but I also appreciate the, sort of like the dynamics that you bring and like I was saying, the different tones, the different colors. Even like on your second record, Bunky Sessions from 2021, to like Echo Chamber, a little bit softer vocal, but really nice. And you mentioned the Beatles, so, I think of Paul McCartney singing a song like Yesterday, which is, a beautiful ballad sounding, very soft sounding song, but then another song like Helter Skelter, right? Where you just like totally like, it could be Screamo if it was, early 2000s, Alexis on Fire or something. I don't know, right? But, yeah,
Proto Screamo, love it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I really appreciate that you kind of play with those different tones, but again, at the same time, it still sounds like a cohesive voice and very much your own. And so I appreciate when artists can draw from inspiration, but then kind of bring all these influences together in a unique way. And you certainly do draw from a lot of different sources. So I really like that. But yeah, in the Bunky session, so I want you to talk a little bit about what's Bunky? What's the Bunky? What does that mean?
The bunkie is where I'm sitting right now. It is. I mean, it's effectively like a a heated drywalled shed in my backyard. It took on some new meaning for me during COVID when live music shut down, and I was having trouble like connecting to my music in the same way without maybe some of those like just the influence of playing to people and getting that feedback and it kind of like creating that fire. And obviously the world was in a weird place as well. But I felt this. I felt myself kind of like disconnecting from my music, and I was like, oh, this isn't good. This doesn't feel good. So I leaned into the recording, did some streaming, but really got into producing. And I had these two tunes, Echo Chamber and why am I forgetting the other one right now?
Always on Me, I think was the other one.
Thank you. Yes, yes, always
Yeah, no
on me.
problem.
And I thought, hey, let's try to record these and produce these as my first like project being a producer slash mixing engineer. And I spent forever on those two tunes because I was like so new to the process that I was going over them and redoing stuff, and I totally like trash all the effects chains that I had put on a track and then redo it. And but it was a really fun process. And because I spent so much time in this bunkie recording and mixing and producing these songs, I
Mhm.
called them the bunkie sessions.
Nice. I think it's important to like have a creative space that you can kind of, you know, turn off the outside world and just escape and be in your moment, and really kind of focus and be present in your art. Whether you're creating music, or you're performing music, I think that's really important. So that's, a lot in line with what we're trying to do with Listen Up, right? Having a dedicated space just for music, chairs facing the stage, everyone's quiet while performers are playing their songs. And yeah, I think that's really important to find those spaces, certainly from the music creation process, but also performing too, right? And that being said, there's a time and place for everything, right? So having, a loud room and lots of people like cheering and dancing, whatever, there's always places for that. But I think it's important to also make sure that we have a platform for sort of like music that's geared towards listening and storytelling, and that's a lot of, to me, what are the pillars of folk music, which can apply to a wide variety of genres, but I think it's important to connect with artists and hear the stories and the storytelling that's a pillar of folk music, in my opinion. So I like that when the room is kind of, glued and interested. And certainly for me as a listener, I appreciate being in a room where I can focus. Or if I'm watching a movie, for example, I don't, like it if someone's scrolling on their phone or, they're talking next to you at the movie theater. It really just pulls you out of it. I want to feel that suspension of disbelief and, just be engaged and present. So I'm glad that you found a place and you have a space to, make your music that way in that sort of headspace. And we're going to bring that type of headspace to the stage on January 24th. So that's very cool. Um, on the other side of it, so you had another record from August 2023, Had Too Much to Think. So maybe sometimes when you're in isolation, you kind of go a little too far. And I thought that was interesting with Had Too Much to Think in the title. So you had a particular tune on there that kind of reminds me of Queens of the Stone Age, maybe Desert Rock, Tame Impala. I don't know if you want to talk about that particular release and where you were going with that title, Had Too Much to Think.
Yeah, I think I mean that tune was motivated out of probably spending too much time on the internet
Yeah,
and I mean Echo Chamber is with that theme as well, but just seeing the kind of like people going down these echo chambers, these rabbit holes, and maybe getting a little out of touch with reality, and ultimately like disconnecting
sure.
um, from their fellow humans in a way that I felt was not great, not suboptimal, and that was the motivation behind Had Too Much to Think and Echo Chamber, and I mean I've that theme has kind of been in a lot of my songwriting. Just thinking about the double-edged sword of the internet and these communities that arise out of them and how, in some ways they're connecting and in another way they're disconnecting from um I don't know the real world, the parts of the quote unquote real world that I think our humanity is very connected to.
Mhm. Yeah, it seems like the internet makes everything faster, both the best things and the worst things, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
at the same time, it also removes this layer of like, being physically present, right? Which can, be for better or for worse. But yeah, I definitely agree, especially around that time, because 2023, we were still kind of coming off the tail end of like the pandemic and everything like that. And, everyone was kind of glued to their phones and staying indoors. So it was kind of an interesting time, right? Um, but yeah, really like the tune. I think it's called Jenga.
Oh yeah, yeah, Jenga.
Yeah.
Jenga was very it's funny, I didn't even have like an idea behind what that song. That song just started with like a riff, and then I started just
Mhm.
kind of improvising lyrics, and it ended up becoming about mental health and addiction and escapism, which is something that's another theme that kind of runs through a lot of my songwriting. I mean, I've had some struggles with mental health myself, but I think I've had probably more people in my life that have, and supporting them through that has been a source of songwriting, I think. And yeah, Jenga's um, I love that tune. It's one of my favorite tunes to play.
Mhm.
It's one that I feel like really needs the full band. I never try to play it like solo. It's one of the few tunes that didn't come from just like me on an acoustic guitar. And
Right.
so I don't know how to translate it to an acoustic guitar. Maybe I'll try someday, but
I'd love to
um,
hear you try because I think it's a great song. But I understand what you mean. There are certain songs that just like, it's like, I don't know, try to play an Iron Maiden song on acoustic guitar or something. It just doesn't feel right, right? There's a feeling behind the tones. The tones are just as much of an important part to songwriting as you know, uh, the lyrics and the chords and melodies and things like that, right? So there's a lot of feeling behind tones and sounds and deliveries and energy that you can produce with electric sounds, electric guitars, pedals, all these things. They are palettes and they can be, the driving force behind a song, right? I mean, let's think Jimi Hendrix, right? Like, I mean, he kind of did it all in terms of songwriting, and but I think about the feelings of a tune like Machine Gun, or it's like that feedback is like such a huge part of what makes that song what it is, right? So I understand what you're saying. I think.
yeah, and I have some tunes that even beyond just the tone, it's like the rhythm section. I feel like the drum and the bass is such an important driver, and so if I don't have that, I don't know how to capture that same like energy of the song with just solo acoustic.
Yeah.
Be an interesting challenge though. I should challenge myself.
Yeah, yeah. It'd be interesting to hear either way, But yeah, and then the other record you had, Lost and Found from November 2024. I was just curious, any connection to our local cafe, or is that just sort of you know, a coincidence?
It was both an homage to the Lost and Found, which was the very first show I played as a singer-songwriter was at the Lost and Found. But that album was also a collection of songs that I had written and worked out as a band before the pandemic. We tried to record it with a producer who ended up kind of flaking on us, and those tunes were lost, so to speak, to the mists of time. And we said, "Hey, these are great tunes. We gotta get them out there." So we refound them, so to speak. So that was the lost and foundness of those songs. But it
Right.
was also a nod to the lost and found, which was started by Amanda, which was our original drummer for the
Cool.
Bearskins.
Got it. Okay, nice. I thought there might be a connection there, so I'm glad I asked that question. And there was one other tune on there, I think, Hey Man. It kind of had almost like a dancey, I don't know if you're familiar with the band Vampire Weekend riff in there, but a little bit more darker, which I actually liked. It kind of like, I don't know, it was just really fun and cool. And like I like the danciness of that tune. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that one is one that gets people dancing, which I guess kind
Mhm.
of surprised me because it doesn't like I don't know. I never think of myself as writing like danceable music, but I've come to realize that I do. Like, as a band, we really do get people up and dancing. Liam, a local artist, was saying that he always feels like he wants to march to my music. It's like I don't know exactly what to make of that, but I kind of get it. Like there's a kind of like like a driving that gets people up and dancing, maybe not in a way that other bands might, but it still has that. And Hey Man is one that definitely I don't know that it fully translates on the album, but live it's got a great energy, and I love playing that tune.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm really excited to hear it. And on the other side of it, we worked together a little bit on a video for one of your newer songs called Love Thy Neighbor. And really enjoyed the, sort of acoustic version of that. I think you were mentioning that you might want to take it into a full band, sort of arrangement. But yeah, it really did sound nice just hearing you finger pick on the acoustic guitar and sing. Was really impressed by the lyrics and tying back to maybe some of your punk influence. I certainly hear like, maybe a Bad Religion influence in the lyrics and like just the weight of the words and the articulation is very interesting in that song. So I think you said that maybe you enjoy that band too, right?
Yeah, as a young punk rock kid in the 90s, I Bad Religion was a big influence. I always liked Greg Graffin's the thoughtfulness of his lyrics, the that whole kind of not even like rebellious punk spirit necessarily, but that like calling out injustices in the world, really speaking about meaningful issues that our world faces. That was something that really resonated with me as a kid and still does to this day. And Bad Religion is still a band that I think, I had their Christmas record on this Christmas,
Nice.
Um, so yeah, I definitely still connect with Bad Religion. And that kind of punk rock activism spirit. And I think some of that comes through in my songwriting.
Definitely, definitely. So any timelines in terms of when people can look forward to hearing the new music coming out?
Shooting for this summer sometime, but definitely am not great with like hard dates because I work at my own pace and
Yeah, that's understandable.
life gets in the way sometimes, but I feel like I've gotten a lot faster since the original Bunky sessions. Like I said, like that project took me a year to make two songs, and the next one had too much to think, took me a year to get four songs, and
Right.
then Lost and Found was six songs in a year. So I'm getting faster, workflow's getting faster.
Nice.
We'll see how long this one takes me to get out, but sometime this year.
I think people need to appreciate that it takes a lot of time to write a song, and that it's an entirely different process to then record it, mix it, master it, and go through all those things. So the fact that you're kind of carrying all of those loads while you're creating your music is, an important thing to acknowledge. It's impressive, takes a lot of work, and the music sounds great. So you're doing it, you're doing well, and you just have to keep doing it, right? And I'm happy to hear that you're finding your path and your processes and things are getting easier as you go. But the effort you're putting in, it's working. It sounds great. So keep doing it. I'm looking forward to the new music. Um, so yeah, talking more a little bit about January 24th, Listen Up. I was just curious to hear your thoughts about the concept. And maybe even if you talk a little bit more about your experiences performing and what you hope to get out of this experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think like your thoughts about the influence of space really resonate with me. I certainly have experienced that as a performer. I've played gigs where you're kind of like background music, and in those situations, I always like it's always like a challenge to, oh, can I connect with people? Can I connect with some people, even if they're not paying attention right now? And the way that I have been most successful is just like for me to really connect with what I am doing in the music and have that kind of like genuine expression. And then I find some people, maybe not everybody, they notice and they start tuning in, and then you can kind of start forming connections with people even in those environments.
Mhm.
And to be honest, that's the kind of environment I'm more accustomed to playing
Sure.
than than Listen Up. But I think Listen Up is I'm really excited for the opportunity to kind of have that baked into the room
Mhm.
and um and see what kind of like depth of connection I can create with the people there. Um, it's I think I think that kind of like that kind of environment creates more opportunity
Mhm.
for depth, and I think that will allow me to maybe be more vulnerable and more expressive about the personal connection that I have with the music, in a way that maybe certain rooms don't facilitate or
Mhm.
are less conducive to. And so I think I'm excited to for that opportunity maybe to connect with my music with people in a way that's deeper than maybe I'm used to.
Yeah,
It's
I agree. Just to give some background on my thinking about it. So, just over 10 years ago, I was hosting events in Halton Hills, and I had put on several rock bands, but an acoustic sort of singer-songwriter opener. And I've said this before, she, in my opinion, was the best singer there that night, but just wasn't the right environment for her, right? People were it was a standing room, people were kind of wanting to drink, and a lot of them were fans of this rock band, which, they had sort of made some accomplishments and started, going to the States and getting a record deal and all that kind of stuff. So they were doing very well. Um, but I kind of felt bad for her because it seemed like the audience wasn't really in the right headspace to receive her music and appreciate it the way she deserved. So I ended up putting a show on for her where she headlined, but it was also, again, what I refer to as a listening room. So being very explicit about saying it, when you come in, please no talking during performances. And, we want people to engage, like truly engage with this music. And that's what we feel is the right sort of culture around what we're presenting to you. And I didn't have to enforce any rules. Like people were just glued to her. The room was dead silent, and except for her, of course. And people were really enjoying it. Her voice just filled the room. A lot of natural reverb. It was on the second floor of an Irish pub that was just a room that basically sat empty there otherwise. So really enjoyed that. Fast forward to, you know, uh, moving now to Elora and then Center Wellington. Uh, I had been playing country covers for the last 10 years and playing in, pubs and breweries and bars and, used to just kind of entertaining people with songs that they're familiar with and, dancing and things like that. But as I kind of abandoned that and got back into writing original songs, I kind of quickly realized that I wanted a space where I could kind of connect with people in that way, right? Where you're really engaging in storytelling and, sort of folk culture, as I would describe it, and a listening room. So in November of 2024, I started reaching out to a few different locals and seeing if they wanted to collaborate. I myself am very busy with work. I know we both kind of, work with computers and things like that, so we understand that. But yeah, I was hoping to kind of find people to partner up with, but talking to different venues and places, it was kind of difficult to, find the right space. Um, and it took some time, but after reaching out to the Legion, they were receptive to the idea. We're going to be donating the profits, of course, after paying the artists to the Legion to help support them. And it's really just kind of, a volunteer effort to get it going. I'm hoping that it grows beyond me and, that I can at least help other artists sort of connect with the locals and sort of bridge some gaps there. So yeah, I'm really excited for it. I do want it to exist by whatever means possible. And I'm really looking forward to hearing your music. And you'll be headlining this one. So yeah, it'll be really great to hear. And I think you're going to be accompanied by Adrian. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Local legend Adrian Jones.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Great, phenomenal, player of multiple instruments.
So
Like
many, so
guitar,
many
I think
instruments.
even fiddle, I think you've talked to him about, which is cool,
Yep.
mandolin. So yeah, really excited to hear that. And so just to sort of leave it off, is there anything you want the people of Elora to know before you perform? For if you want to drop your links or anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, the social media follows and follow on Spotify and Apple Music, whatever you listen to music on. That always kind of helps just get our music out there. we're pretty bad with the social media in generally in terms of updating. But if you do, if you do connect with our music, then please give us a follow, and that's where you'll hear about all of our upcoming shows and releases and everything else going on. So
Awesome.
uh, the Bearskins Band on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Yeah,
Okay, perfect. Jesse, thanks so much for joining the call today. Looking forward to seeing you this coming weekend, I guess. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me.
yeah. All right. I'll see you then.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers. See ya.